name is Cedar Beck, and neither the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop. So, the world's ending. I would say changing. The Western civilization is on its way out. I think here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about the events of the recent past, right? The recent past, and I'll give you some predictions for the coming week. I've had some very short-term predictions, which I am incredibly confident in. But there's the interesting bit, is why I hope you tuned in. We're going to be talking about the biblical prophecies of the end of days, right? Before the Messianic era. We'll talk about what the Messianic era is a bit as well. And we're going to see how it maps over to what's happening. And it's disturbingly similar, right? Disturbingly similar. And we're going to extrapolate for that using these biblical prophecies, what we can expect over the next 18 months. And if I'm right about this one, woohoo! I get nothing. I get nothing at all. But that's what I think about. Can I ask you guys, if you hit the like button, that'd be great. Can you hit the share button? Share button for this video. I'm going to tell you, the share button is the most important one. I honestly, look, I might be crazy, okay? I'm going to go through my entire thought process with you. A lot of it is just coming from logic and reason. And look, I'm not a prophet, okay? I'm talking about biblical prophecies. I am not a prophet. I want to be clear. I am a schmuck in my basement who normally talks about Doctor Who, Star Trek, and Star Wars, right? That's the level that I normally get to, and I do have a feeling. I am part of God's sense of humor right now, because by the time all this is done, I can see I am in fact a Douglas Adams-esque postscript. You know, when they write the history of it, say, and one pundit did in fact predict everything with 100% accuracy, and correctly, a little-known YouTuber from a small town in his basement in Carnation. Fortunately, he sounded like he's insane, and nobody listened, right? Unfortunately, it's kind of, actually, you know what it's like. You know, Ghostbusters 2, which is, I think, far better than I do enjoy. I mean, listen, the Walking Statue of Liberty was a bit of a rip-off of a Stay Puft Marshmallow, but otherwise, Ghostbusters 2. So at the beginning, you have Bill Murray, Dr. Peter Venkman, and he's got this like cheap, tacky sidekick TV show, and he's got like 3 people on predicting the end of the world, and like 2 of them are clearly, into like, they're crazy or they want book deals or whatever, and you got this last guy who looks absolutely terrible. It's gonna happen, and he says like in 6 months or whatever, like in a month. He said, well, that's no time. You got to get the book deal and everything. He said, no, this is not a cheap publicity. This is real. I feel like that guy. So, like the video, please. Can you share it? I really want to get this message out, because we're also going to be talking about what you can do. And there's nothing we can do to really, in a physical way, change reality, change the present. But there's something important we can all do, regardless of where you are in theology. If you believe in God, if you don't believe in God, if you're a Christian, a Jew, whatever, it doesn't matter. The answer is universal. And that's like, be nice to each other. That's where we're going with it. Let's all be really, really nice to each other. So like, share. Can you hit the subscribe button? That'd be great as well. I am a bit of a subscriber whore. That is true. I do like you to subscribe, but I am also a whore for my subscribers. So whatever you guys want, I'm happy to do. By the way, now I'm going to take a little break from talking about the end of the world for a second and plug my weekly competition. If you are a subscriber to the channel, you can enter my weekly competition. The prize this week is the Mission Impossible 1, 2, or 3 box set. Now here's a fun bit. It's the Hebrew edition, because everything's in Hebrew, right? The movies are in English. You can put on the Hebrew subtitles if you want. I don't think they got Hebrew soundtrack, Hebrew subtitles. To win it, subscribe to the channel. I'm doing it to get you to subscribe. I don't think I can be any clearer. Subscribe to the channel, and in the comments, leave the hashtag. What is it? Hashtag 6 seconds to self-destruct. Go check the video notes. And it'll tell you everything you need to know to win out. I'm going to be giving away. Next week will be the 17th, 18th on a Sunday, on a live stream somewhere. I don't know. And while you're checking the video notes, if you could, there was one more thing. Okay, like, share, subscribe. I know. I'm schlepping stuff out of you, right? But while you subscribe, go check out my Indiegogo. Listen, I need to make a living. I got these 2 graphic novels, Biblical and the Imperium. They're launching on Indiegogo in the next week or so. I'm building up an email list. If you could be so good to add your email address to it, obviously we're not going to share it. Anybody adds their email address, you get one of these four very tasteful, somewhat pervy art cards with any purchase, unless you get the package where you get all four art cards. Then we're going to give you a fifth chaser one for free. Okay, so that's over. Let's get back to the end of the world. Fine. So let's talk about what's happened. So I want to be very clear. I am not making any allegations that this election was the 2020 November 3rd election was the result came to via electoral fraud, because I don't know the answer to that. I do not know the answer to that. I do know that there are allegations of electoral fraud, and the allegations that seem to me to be very easy to investigate and debunk, right? And look, with it. Did all these ballots come in the middle of the night, Xeroxed, or what? There's so many of these things. Like 200,000 more people voted in, was it Pennsylvania, than existed. All this stuff should be easy to debunk. There's like thousands of people voted who were dead. All this stuff is easy to debunk. But instead of debunking it, this is the bit that freaked me out first. We have this blanket wall response. So, there is no electoral fraud. There is. What about the 200,000 people that voted that are more than people on the electoral? There is no electoral fraud. What about they said they stopped counting because there's a burst water main, but there was no. There is no electoral fraud. Now I don't know who's lying, but one of the two people is lying, right? One of the two people is lying. Either the people making these allegations, or the people saying there is no electoral fraud. But one of them is clearly lying, right? And until I know for sure who, I can't say who. But you know who can say who? The fact checkers at Twitter and Facebook. So that's really okay. This is the thing that's really the first thing that freaked me out from last week. It became very clear. It became very clear that that America has fundamentally changed forever over the last few days from what's happened. Even if there was no electoral fraud, with 40% of your electorate firmly believing it and will not disbelieve it without it being debunked, then that 40% are not voting again. Added to that, the Republican Party, so about half of the political system, is dead. It's destroyed itself. I think 80% of the people who vote Republican will not be voting again. Will not vote for them again. So essentially, the democracy is dead. Democracy in the greatest democracy in the world, it has died. It's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And again, I'm not alleging electoral fraud. I'm just saying, without debunking the allegations, that there's no other way of looking at it, right? So democracy is dead. Equal protection under the law is dead. So we had the terrible storming of Capitol Hill, right? And that was the worst thing ever. It just seems to me very comparable to the riots we've seen across America from Antifa, BLM, which were encouraged and endorsed by the same people who say there is no electoral fraud. And there's been 24 deaths, and that's all fine. That's all fine. But this one is they're saying very openly, they're using this as a pretext to stop domestic terrorism. So I think this is where I'm getting to my short-term predictions, right? Well, actually, let's talk about the present before we get to the future. Fine. So so democracy is gone. Law is gone. Equal protection under the law is gone. Freedom of speech is gone, because speech is defined by social media companies, by big tech, right? What speech is allowed and what isn't. Truth is the truth is they are more powerful than the President of the United States, quite clearly, and it seems to me that they very clearly have demonstrated that, just in the same way, so. Essentially, it looks to me like they own us, and they've owned us for a while, right? They have our data, they know who we are, they have the means of communication, they have the means of personhood, right? They are taking away the means of personhood from people, and they define reality, right? They define truth. They define truth itself. There is no electoral fraud. But there is no. But there is no electoral fraud. And yeah, I saw that speech that they live as it was going on before they took it off from before the storming, which didn't seem to be an incitement to violence to me. But again, it's just my opinion. During which they listed many allegations of electoral fraud, which seemed to be, I can't dispel it without it being dispelled. I don't think that's an unreasonable position, but there is no electoral fraud, right? So, the social media, we are slaves of social media. The only real freedom we had is democracy, right? The checks and balances was that we could go to the ballot box, and that's over now because 40% of the country doesn't believe it works, right? 40% of the country. So that's gone, and the new administration are completely intertwined with big tech, right? Completely intertwined with them, and there is no electoral. That's the message. So, well, this is my predictions for the coming week. They are certainly going to impeach Donald Trump, and in the last week of his presidency. So what I think the reason is for that, other than the sheer hatred, the sheer absolute hatred for him, and they do think he's the worst person in the world. They think he's, the super vice chancellor of Germany in the 1930s, when you had the very naughty people, very naughty National Socialists came. But they do completely believe that, and they think, but I think moreover, more cynically, it's going to be done with the hope that it will cause protests. And what will those protests be? They will probably turn violent. And that violence, I think, is going to be used as a greater pretext to create sweeping draconian reforms against Trump supporters, rebranding them as domestic terrorists. So my first message to you, if you have a MAGA hat, you gotta hide it. Yeah. Actually, the whole thing about there is no electoral fraud. Another thing I can recommend. I normally talk about Doctor Who, which is an old kind of cool TV show, science fiction TV show from the 1960s. So there's this one episode, which a bunch of these episodes from the 60s were thrown away in the 70s because they said, well, listen, no one's going to want to buy this anymore. They had no idea of the home video market and streaming or whatever was going. So they threw a bunch away. So they there's one guy called, what was it? I can't remember his name. Who would take pictures of the TV screen as they're on, so actors can use it in their resume. So you got like this picture reference of these episodes that lost. So they use those plus the scripts to make animated versions. So there's this one story called The Macra Terror. It's a pretty good one, starring Patrick Troughton. And they land on this like happy colony planet where everything's fun and happy and everything is great. But there seems to be something wrong, something insidious. And it turns out there's these giant crab things that are really in control. But here's the thing: they're called the Macra. Everybody gets conditioned by their social media, by their environment, and brainwashed by it. And so when the monsters start appearing and they see him in front of them, right? They see him in front of them. People go, "There is no Macra! There is no Macra!" And it seems to be the same response we're getting. So I think it's going to be used to demonize not Republicans, Trump supporters. I think the alt lines have shifted, right? Another great analogy for what I think we're actually going to see. It's actually a real stark analogy. If you're about my age, you might remember the TV show from the 80s, V, right? It was about, especially the original miniseries, not the sequel TV show, which wasn't that great, but it was about these aliens when they came down to Earth, and it was like, it's like humans and the visitors, they were called, got together, and it was all wonderful, and they thought this was a great thing, but there was something a bit off about and it turned out they were giant lizards wearing human suits. They would rip their masks off, and then he'd eat mice a lot for some reason, but that was a really cool scene when they had the room. Anyway, the point is this, during, after they became part of culture, then there was a move by the entirety of the media, much like we're seeing now, to demonize scientists, right? You should go and check that out, the show V, because I think that's exactly what we're going to see. They say dirty scientist kid. That's exactly, and it was an allegory to the Holocaust. And there are so many parallels going on. They've been talking about, this is just like it. No, This is how it starts. Well, this is far more than the start. Civil liberties are being completely, torn away. So anyway, they are going to absolutely demonize anybody in a MAGA hat, right? And this very clearly what they're saying they're planning on doing. So I don't think any of this is a big leap. But to all my friends out there with MAGA hats, put them in your closet. You got to go into hiding, right? It's just you got to go into hiding because it's dangerous out there, and they're in control. They're in complete control for a while. So that's what's going on. But let's talk about biblical prophecies for the end of days, right? Biblical prophecies for the end of days. There are several that I think pertain. There's one where they talk about the generation that the Messianic ages are either going to be completely evil or completely good. So, it seems strange that everybody be one way or the other. So one of the Hasidic masters, I just heard last night, I never remember the sources, just I'm sure you can find it, interpret this as saying, no, it's not. They're not going to be that or that. They're going to be both, right? People are either going to be on one side or the other. They're going to be completely polarized, which is 100% what we see. 100% what we see. And I do think it's inevitable that there's going to be a civil war coming, right? Which is another one of these prophecies for the end of days, right? So it's but there's another concept called Corbin, which is called sacrifice, which was actually a central part of Judaism up until the destruction of our temple in Jerusalem about 2,000 years ago, right? So there's a thing called Corbin, which is where God will allow one thing to be sacrificed rather than you, right? He'll and it's part of having an intimate relationship with God. That's essentially what it is. So the idea is the Satan needs to receive a Corbin, needs to receive some kind of sacrifice for any great good to happen. And I believe that sacrifice was the ideal of what was America. And America was an incredible ideal. There's never been a world power where the idea the strong would help the weak. By the way, I want to tell you, not only am I schmuck in a basement, right? I'm a guy who kind of half knows bits and bobs, right? So I might be talking out my ass. In fact, if you have more knowledge in the Torah, in the Bible than me, and you have questions, I would like questions that sink my argument, right? That's good news for me, right? So send them in if you have them. Get in contact. But there's this idea called Corbin. So I think the ideal of America. So the ideal was as a country where liberty and justice for all, where there's a government by, for, and of the people. Right? Truth, justice, and American way. That is gone. It's big tech controls truth. It controls truth. You don't get more primal than that. We control the horizontal. We control the vertical. Screw that. We control truth. It's a big tech, social media. We are their slaves, right? It's kind of like that Twilight Zone. I just translated to serve man. It's a cookbook. So that's where we are. So I think that Corbin, the sacrifice to the Satan, the devil's due, as it were, was the ideal of America, which is gone. It is, again, regardless of there being electoral fraud, it doesn't matter. None of that matters anymore. Is gone. So that's it. Just seems to be mapping together scarily closely for me. That being the case. What can we expect to look forward to, right? So one of the scenarios for the coming of the Messianic age is, I believe, the world powers at the time will be thrown into turmoil, right? And then right before what's called a Shemitah year. Shemitah year is called like the Jubilee year. Every 7 years, you're supposed to let the land rest and be fallow. It was more of a religious rite and a thing in Israel when there was a Jewish temple and a Jewish monarchy. So that's the year starting in at the end of August. At the end of August, and I suppose that year, that Shemitah year, is supposed to be a year full of global wars, and the year after that, then the Messianic age starts, and when there's nobody left to really stop it after a lot, there's been a lot of death. So let's map that onto our situation again. I'm not a prophet, okay? I'm a guy who likes science fiction and like thrillers and drama and story. And I look at what's happening, and I look at my fractured knowledge of the Bible, of the Talmud, whatever, and I put together stories. I write and draw comic books, right? That's basically what I write and draw comic books, and so this seems to be the perfect vehicle to do that. But it still just seems terrifyingly credible. I think we're going to see the war of Gog Magog. So what does that mean? Gog and Magog, I've always thought it's very strange that both of them sound basically identical, right? But that's the war we have. It's an ideological war. Again, you're either on one side or the other. You're completely polarized, right? But both sides look identical. You can't. It's going to be brother versus brother. And I know in my own personal extended family, I got this section who's on that side. I got that section on this side, and I'm scared for them because they are not going to back down. There's not going to be loggerheads, and there are going to be sons who are going to have to go against parents, and watch the fallout. It is going to be. I think this is going to be terrible. This is the so I think we're going to see that. But and I think it's going to go across global lines. So how I imagine this going down, I don't see there being a ability to avoid civil war for long. I think by mid-March, which is Passover. So Passover, by the way, is there's this idea that the world is created, the path of the world is created as an idea in Jewish New Year, which is like September time, and then there's a 6-month spiritual pregnancy while that potential year grows, and it's eventually born. It's given birth to at Passover, where the idea of the world that was created comes into reality, starts to come into the physical world. So I think by mid-Passover, and everything in the Jewish calendar is about a month early this year. So I think that ties in. So I think by mid-March, when it's Passover, we're going to see the sparking of an American Civil War. I think it's a very reasonable thing to think here, because I think there's going to be a deplatforming and depersonning of anybody who does support Trump. And we've seen it start right now. I saw people thrown off airplanes because they said Trump 2020, right? And because they're domestic terrorists. This happened two or 3 days ago. Something really disturbing happened 2 days. It's happening right now. Actually, just happened right now, 34 minutes ago, as I'm looking at the clock. When Trump and conservative voices started to get purged from social media platforms like Twitter, because they don't like them saying the things they're saying, people went to his other app called Parler, which had been growing nicely. And this was great news for Parler. It became the #1 app on the Google Store, and the Apple Store, and the Amazon Store. It did really, it was doing really, really well. Until they took them off that store. The big tech that had defined reality, that had defined truth, said there is no electoral fraud. They took that app down from all their platforms, so you can't buy it anymore. But that wasn't enough. They was hosted on a it was an Amazon web server, like Amazon server. And Amazon have just, again, 35 minutes ago, deleted the app from their servers. It's gone. So it's no longer, you can't say what we don't want you to say on our platform. You can't say what we don't want you to say you can't say it. It's done. You can't, and we will stop it. And there should be checks and balances, but there's not, because they're in control. We are not in control anymore. Remember, there's people are talking about forming other parties to fight into. There's going to be no elections in 2022. Okay, I don't think Joe Biden is going to be at I don't think he's going to be a full president. From what I know, anyway, from these predictions. So anyway, it's supposed to be So anyway, so they deplatform people, and they got rid of this other platform where they might go to. So I think that rather than the idiot Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Arnie, mate, listen. I love Total Recall. I love Running Man. Like I love the 8, a bit of Predator. But like, shut up, you idiot with a Nazi father, Kristallnacht. So Kristallnacht was a dark day in Jewish history. It was basically anti-Jewish riots went off across Berlin. Hundreds of Jews were killed. Jewish businesses were destroyed. The reason it's called Kristallnacht because it was a night of broken glass. Right? Everybody heard glass shatter. Every piece of glass shattered. I've heard personal stories from it. It's the most horrendous thing. And I'm not going to go into it. I used to be working the Holocaust Memorial Museum in Israel. Yad Vashem, and jeez, you know what? Ignorance is bliss. I wish I didn't know any of this stuff, right? But the point of Kristallnacht, the function of Kristallnacht, is to see how the world will react. How would the world react if we talked to a bunch of Jews? And have anti-Jews, right? And they didn't care. They sat in their hands. Nobody said a damn thing, right? And they said, okay, full steam ahead, right? So I think that we've seen Kristallnacht. They said no. Again, if your guy won, you're polarized, right? If your guy won, I don't care. There is no electoral. It doesn't matter that the remove of Parler that and they beta test it with Alex Jones. That's going to be happening en masse because they're going to be domestic terrorists. So I see that a civil war starting. By mid-March at the latest, at the absolute latest, and a comical and terrible way that it could happen. And I'm making this stuff up, but it might come true. I'm making this stuff up. Is what could spark it? Maybe Trump's suicide, Trump's Jeffrey Epstein-like suicide whilst he's in prison, because that's where I think he's going. One of the saddest headlines I ever saw was on Newsmax last night. Say Trump to stare down the left next week. I'm like, no, Donald, run! Get your family and run now, because they're coming for you and they're stronger than you. Run, mate. It's been a fun few years. I like The Apprentice. Run, get your kids, get your wife. And run. Go to Saudi Arabia. Go to Israel. There's plenty of places going to give you a safe harbor, but you got to run, and you got to do it now. And I also say to the people, Ted Cruz and people that are saying they should resign from Congress. Yeah, because I think this Congress is one of pure falsehood and evil, right? I don't think a God-fearing person should be amongst them. The thing they're saying is that while they voted to make this sacrifice to Satan, the sacrifice of the ideal of the United States to Satan, while they're doing that, the blood of a patriot, buried, dripped into the ground. How much more biblical can you get? And that blood is going to call out to God, right? And this is just because I'm a Bible-thumping religious fanatic. And look, she shouldn't have been there. She shouldn't have done it. She shouldn't have been damn killed. Poor girl. She shouldn't have been damn killed. I think about parents, and it's terrible. I saw my son go off to the army yesterday. I live in Israel. And I'm scared. I'm scared. I am absolutely scared. But we're supposed to be okay in Israel. I think you're all screwed, but I think we're supposed to be okay here in Israel. So what's this civil war going to look like if one of the players is big tech, right? Big tech. It's what could this look like? I can see the use of, again, on American soil, I can see the use of EMPs, electromagnetic pulse weapons, which are designed not to kill people, but to fry data, right? To fry data. Go watch GoldenEye, one of my favorite James Bond movies. They got a bunch of stuff about EMPs in there. Or read The Dark Knight Returns, a fantastic Batman comic where the last part, an EMP goes off and disables most of America. So what I think is going to happen is going to be EMP attacks to take out Twitter, because they're the enemy according to the other side, right? If it gets to that, that's what it's going to. Listen, I think by July we're going to see, the third Spotify division allied with the Prairie, the Prairie Dogs fourth battalion taking out the Amazon clusters in Denver. I think that's what this civil war is going to look like. So I think there's going to be EMP, which I think was also going to fry all information. I think it's going to fry banking information, which means money goes away. Here's what I think. Again, this is the function of this in terms of biblical prophecies of the Messianic era. It's stripping away every system that you believe in. And I know I sound crazy, okay? I know I sound crazy. But what if I'm right? What if I'm right? It's stripping away every system you believe in, so the only thing you can turn to is God. Right, the only thing you can turn to is God. And I think money's going to go. I think there'll be one go. How I can see it going down. Like somebody use one, and it'll be, and there'll be some data saved and backed up, but then it's just going to be everywhere. Right? I think so. I see by the end of August, which is the Jewish New Year, America being over as a world power. Which then causes a huge power vacuum, sparking these global wars. And these global wars, again, will be being going to fought across ideological lines. The world Gog versus Magog, where everybody looks the same. And you can't tell one from another. So, just for me in Israel, I think we're going to be allied with Saudi Arabia and who else? Jordan against Iran and Syria. And I'm... It's going to, when it goes south, it's going to go south fast, right? I mean, imagine if money's gone by then. Like the idea of money is gone. The dollar doesn't exist, right? I can see it happening. Crazy that, and again, listen, I write fiction, and this is what I would write if I was writing a political thread. But I can see it happening based on where we are, right? This is a compelling story. But it's still, I think it could happen. I think this all could happen. And moreover, I think it is going to happen. I think this is, not exactly, but I think there are going to be these global wars. I think there is going to be this civil war. I think America is over, right? I do believe this is going to go, going south very, 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 very quickly. So after that, in the remnants, the Mashiach, the Jewish Messiah, which I believe in Christian theology has to come before the return of Jesus. But I don't know. Will reveal himself or whatever. Maybe I should have worded that better. That's a quick way to end the Messianic age. Listen, the Messiah will come to light. And what is the Messianic age, right? What is the and this is really, I'm talking to peoples of faith around the world right now. What is the Messianic age? It was an age where there was an intimate connection between humanity and God. And a connection that we do not have now, and one we haven't had for thousands of years. That connection used to be the antenna for that. The antenna for that was the what's called the Beit HaMikdash, the Jewish temple that stood in Jerusalem, which there was like this constant miracle of like lots of these sacrifices, and on the pyre where the sacrifice went, the smoke apparently went up in a perfect roll. There were a lot of open miracles about the days of the temple in Jerusalem, but there's going to be an intimate connection between humanity and God, and that fear and that that feeling of aloneness, right? The feeling of separation. That's what the Messianic era is getting rid of. We are all, because I believe that. I believe we are all one. We are all one people, right? I believe the divisions between us are mostly not real. Nothing one should really harbor. So that's essentially where I think we're headed. Listen, if you're Jewish and live in America, it's not safe for you. You're gonna know this by the end of the week. You're gonna know that it is. Maybe by the end of the week, they won't have impeached Trump, and they won't be going after MAGA hats, which is where they're going. And I'm wrong, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I think we have about 8 months more of America and then global wars for about a year. And I think the only place that was going to remain safe is, as prophesied, is Israel. Look, Israel is a tech hub. I think our servers, our server stacks are probably the safest here. If you want to store data, this is going to be the place to do it. And look, Israel's supposed to become a world power in the Ashes, and if we are the only place with functional technology, that would make sense. That indeed would make sense. Listen, my son's going to be on the front line probably in any of these wars. I just don't know what's going to happen. So look, I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not going, yay! It's the end of no. And again, I know I sound crazy, and to be clear, I'm a schmuck in my basement who normally talks about Doctor Who. But this is how I think it ends. This is the end of the Western civilization. And I think you can backtrack it to same-sex marriage. Again, listen, if you're gay, I have. Well, first of all, you know me. I have no animosity to anyone. Now, by the way, you should know that how real I think this is. I was in this pitch. I'll teach you a Jewish word. Broigus with somebody in my synagogue, and I was gonna kill him. Right, I was gonna kill him for good reason, because I spoke to a friend of mine as an intermediary last night, and I said, I don't care. I don't care anymore. I'm letting it go. I don't care because I don't. It doesn't matter. So what can we do? The only thing I can tell you is to lessen the harsh decree that of the tumultuous times we have coming towards us is act well. If you're somebody who believes in God, reach out to God, talk to God, pray to God. If you're not somebody who brings God, reach out. And if you are, for anybody, reach out to other people. Connect with others. See what you can do to help. See what you can do to be the best you. If there's somebody you've been in an argument with, there's somebody you're in a broigus with, reach out to them and say, I don't care. It's over. That's what we can do. We can connect to each other, and we can connect to God. And that's really my fundamental message to everybody. Apart from Jews, run from America now, please. Listen, you're gonna know I'm right in about a week or so. But let's just let's all be nice to each other. That's the bottom line. Let's all be nice and let's all try to be a better person, the better person we can be. And even if I'm wrong about everything, I think that ultimately will make us happier. I think it's ultimately going to make us happier. Again, I want to reiterate, I am not a prophet. I am a schmuck in my basement. But I'm kind of an entertaining schmuck. So I can ask you once again, please share this video. I would like this to be disseminated as widely possible, and not just to get clicks on my sodding channel, but I would like this to be disseminated as widely as possible. Can you hit the like button? Can you hit the subscribe button? All those things. Fantastic. Thank you very much. My name's Felix Beck, and you, the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe. And ring that little bell. Ring that little bell so you're notified when new videos drop.